Hi guys, welcome back or welcome if you're new. My name is Tiana and I'm the maker behind Also Stitched, and today we have knitting podcast, which is a long overdue one because I actually had to check when was the last time I filmed, and it was almost 2 months ago. And a lot has happened. I'm not gonna lie. Markets have started. It's not that I'm doing a lot of markets this year, but still it kind of was busy prepping for that. I'm again having a big convention this year and I'm prepping for that. In case you're new here, I have a small handmade crochet business where I sell my plushies, I do markets, conventions, I sell plushies on my website, and I also have a crochet channel, which is always linked down below, and feel free to check it. I was actually pretty busy with crochet, and in case you're following me on my crochet channel, then you have seen the biggest crochet plushie I have ever made. If you didn't, feel free to check it out. That was a month of work. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still knitting more than I'm crocheting just because it's really relaxing and mindless. Crochet is not mindless, especially when you have to follow the patterns, count your stitches constantly. There's a lot going on with crocheting plushies, and for me that is not mindless, while knitting it is. In these 2 months, I have finished a lot of objects. So today, I'm just gonna talk about finished objects because this would be a very long video. The biggest problem for me getting these videos out is editing. Editing takes so long, and with everything I have going on, I don't really have a lot of time. That's why I haven't filmed for this channel at all. Today I'm just gonna show you all of my finished objects, which according to my spreadsheet it's 17. I won't be able to show all of them because there's a lot of beanies here, which I'm gonna just show you pictures, and my beanies were already at the markets and some of them are already packed for donation because this week I might see Lisa from Coco's Crochet and take all of my things for donation. So that is already packed in separate bags, and the rest of the beanies are in my market inventory, which I'm not gonna pull it out, but I do have photos and I will share those photos. I have 2 sweaters, 1 slipover, 3 pairs of socks, 1 blanket, and 7 beanies. That's actually a lot for just 2 months. Some of these things were whips in my last podcast, but most of these things were not even in the plans, so only finished objects this week. And then my next video, I'm not sure if it's gonna be in a week or 2 or when, is gonna be my Australian yarn show vlog. I visited Australian yarn show in Canberra, which happened almost 10 days ago, I think, and it was amazing. It was so nice. This was my first time experiencing something like this, and I have a lot of yarns to share with you. So next video is definitely gonna be a vlog plus all my yarn acquisitions because I want to share all the beautiful hand-dyed yarns I have bought. And then after that, next video is definitely gonna be standard knitting podcast where I'll show you finished objects, whips, and acquisitions. By the time I film my next one, I will have at least 1 finished object because one of my socks are nearing to an end, and the rest of I have a couple of garments, again blanket and things like that. Let's start with things that were still whip in my last podcast. I'm gonna start with socks for my husband. I talked a lot about this yarn. This is the yarn that I bought for Christmas, and it is Arcane Fiber Works in colorway Headed Out to Sea. And here are the socks. These are just plain vanilla socks. These socks have already been worn and that they are a bit stretched. But here is the thing about these socks. Originally, I did had to frog these socks once I have done the both gusset decreases on both socks. I'm usually knitting socks in pairs just because I do struggle with gauge issue, and that's actually happening on my current whip. I didn't knit them together at a time, and there is a huge difference in my tension just because I was lazy, but I'm going to talk about that in my next video. With this one, I did knit these 2 at a time, and when I got to gusset decreases, I realized that they are not fitting him. My husband has very high instep and skinny leg. I had to rip it out and do the heel flap so much longer, like almost double the length that I would normally do. I think I have nailed down now what I need to do in the future, but these are just the first socks for my husband, and it's still gonna be trial and error because this is superwash merino and it has definitely stretched. Also, I have noticed that the first sock I did was too long and too wide, and then I decided I'm not gonna frog the first one, I'm just gonna fix the issues on the second one and see how he feels. And he did say that when he's wearing them he can definitely see one being loose and floppy in his shoes while the other one is fitting nicely. I do think that even the other one that is fitting will stretch over time since it is superwash merino, but like I said, it is my first time making socks for my husband and I'm still learning the perfect recipe for him. I love the way these colors look. They are just beautiful. Color change is minimal and I really enjoyed working with this yarn. I also have another skein for myself in different colorway and I think that's gonna be my next cast on before I start any yarns from the Australian yarn show. I want to work on this for myself. So yeah, socks are still learning process for me when it comes to perfect recipe and gauge and size. So I'm really happy. This is beautiful. He loves it. He said they feel really nice on his feet. I do feel both me and my husband are overly protective when it comes to handmade knits and we are not wearing them as we would normal socks. But I think once I grow the collection, once we have a lot of socks, we will stress less. So these are his first socks, so he's not wearing them as often because he's being protective over it, but I think that will end up in future. I don't think that will last for a very long time once I make all of the other socks. Speaking of whips and socks, I have my vanilla DK shorties, also patterned by Crazy Sock Lady, just the plain vanilla but the shortest version. This is free pattern from Crazy Sock Lady. It's on her Ravelry. I did this one in 4 Season Brighton cotton. This was just the cotton yarn that I had in my stash and I just really wanted to de-stash this yarn to get rid of it and I couldn't think of anything else to do with it and I decided I'm just gonna make DK socks. They are very thick, they are cotton, they are heavy. These are the socks that I'm not protective of and I'm just gonna wear them, tear them and get rid of them potentially one day. I did wear them, they are nice, they fit fine. I do this on 3mm needles. I'm not sure what the pattern calls. I think pattern calls for bigger needles, but I don't have them. I do them on a 9-inch circular 3mm needles and these were on my needles for only 3 days. I forgot to mention my husband's ones were on the needles for 15 days. I almost used the whole skein. This is 90 grams of yarn because he wanted it very tall and he has a very long foot. So yeah, 19 grams or 360 meters for these, and for these I used 80 grams and 150 meters. Like I said, this is cotton and it's very heavy and that's why it's 80 grams. I was playing yarn chicken. As you can tell, I lost it, so I had 2 skeins. There is only a small part here and there is a whole toe part here, but I'm fine. I just had a normal cotton in stash. This is not visible, so I'm fine with this. DK socks are so fast to make, but I don't enjoy wearing them because they are very heavy and I can feel them in shoes. I prefer thinner socks in my shoes, but I'm happy to have them. This yarn is out of my stash and I have another socks that I can just wear and tear without caring for them. I'm gonna leave garments for last just because most of these garments have mohair and I have learned that I'm not a huge fan of mohair just because of the mess it makes. I forgot to mention what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my Tulsa tee fingering in Bendigo Woolen Mills cotton. I do plan on making a full video of my summer knits and everything that I wore this whole summer. This was my first summer wearing my knits and I'm lucky that I had a lot of summer knits because I actually do enjoy knitting with summer fibers more than I do with wool fibers. I have learned that about myself during this first year of knitting, so I do plan on making a special video with my summer knits and everything that I have wore, fibers that I enjoyed wearing the most and which t-shirts did I wear the most? So stay tuned for that. Let's go straight into the blanket because this is another summer fiber cotton. I love working with cotton. I'm not gonna lie, it is one of my favorite fibers to work with, and I have a sweet shop blanket made in cotton, and this is amazing. This was such a mindless project. Let me check. This was on my needles for 38 days, which is not too bad, and I used 550 grams of yarn. This is done on a different gauge. I did it on 5mm needles, and I did baby size. So this is folded in half. I won't be able to share the full length here, but I will do some B-roll footage so you will be able to see the full size. I didn't do any border because I was destashing my yarn, and I showed this yarn last time. This is done in 4-season cotton 10-ply, and honestly, one box is enough for this whole project. The reason I had to get into my second box was because the first box was already used, not fully used, but some bits. I think balls were missing around 5 to 10 grams, so only 3 balls I had to use from my other box, and the rest was enough. I do have everything in my Ravelry page. All my projects are updated in Ravelry except for maybe photos because I'm always late with photos, but there I did put in the stitch count I used for this blanket because I never stick to her pattern. I always try to make the squares the same size as the original square so that I get the same size of the baby blanket. This is my second time making this blanket, and both blankets were on a different gauge. So this one was done on 5mm needles. Approximately the squares are the same size each time I'm making a blanket. I think the last blanket was even on a smaller gauge. It was done maybe on 6mm needles. Yeah, it was definitely smaller gauge. I don't remember now here. I would have to check my Ravelry page. I really love making this blanket. This blanket is such a perfect stash buster. That box that I showed you, I have 4 more boxes like this, and when you think about it, I can make 4 baby blankets, and those boxes were actually very cheap. I think I paid the whole box only 25 Australian dollars on sale. Look, I didn't even have to think about the colors because the box has colors grouped, and I decided I'm just gonna use first 2 colors, second 2 colors, and so on. And then after that I was just alternating colors. I think this was my starting square, and then first row is the... When I'm holding blanket up, I don't think camera can hear me because the microphone is over there. But let me try and show you like this so that I can explain. This was my first square, and then there was 4 squares and the 4 sets of colors in the box. And then for the next row, I was just alternating the diagonal. You can see how this one is going here, this one is going here, and so on and so forth. So I didn't have to think about it. Just watch the blue colors. That's how I did it. It was really mindless, and it ended up being beautiful. The colors are matching perfectly. The colors are doing its thing by itself, and I really love it because I don't like thinking about choosing color or where to put colors, and it just puts too much stress on me, and I'm not picking up project if I need to think about it. But here I don't have to think about it, and I think I'm just gonna stick with this for the next blanket because my first one, I was thinking where I need to put colors, and I was just like, oh, this is gonna be my next, this is gonna be my next. But for this one I didn't have to think about it, and I love it. In case I didn't mention, this is Sweet Shop blanket by Laura Penrose, a very well known blanket. I talked about it on my podcast a couple of times. There is no sewing, seaming. This is, each square is worked on the blanket. That's why it's so mindless, because it's done in short rows. There's not a lot of thinking about this. Once you make one, the second one is no-brainer, and I do see myself making more of this. I just enjoy having blankets on my needles because I do need mindless projects. I have one big crochet blanket for almost a year on my hook, and I'm just not picking it up. I'm procrastinating working on that blanket because it is not mindless, and at the moment I'm in a headspace where I can only handle mindless projects. I don't want to think about this. I want to be relaxed and cozy and just knit. I have another finished socks. I talked about the yarn acquisition last time, and I said that I'm gonna make Cider House Socks by Summerly, and this is done in drop snort in color off-white on 2.25 needles. I did size large. It was on my needles for 17 days. It used 85 grams of yarn because I went extra tall, and that was 289 meters. And here are the socks. This was my first time working cables in socks, and honestly, when I started this pattern, I didn't enjoy working cables on such tiny needles. And the first round of cable, I was like, I'm not sure if I want to work on this. Do I want to finish this? I didn't like it. And I pushed through it, and in the end, I loved it. I actually loved working on this because you get used to it. I had to use cable needle. Essentially, I was just using one DPN, and it was fine, and I loved them. They were a labor of work and love, and drop snort is definitely thicker than any other sock yarn that I have worked, and that's why probably it was a bit more slog, because it was really hard to work with this yarn. These socks look very thick and plush and plump. I mean, it is because of the cables, but at the same time they are ribbed socks. I do love the way they look. I have worn them only once because it's still very hot here. Even though we are in autumn, it is still very hot. This yarn I only put on my feet for once when I was lounging here in the evening and I felt cold and this was close to me, and I just put it on, and after an hour of wearing it, when I took it off, my feet were itchy me. Like, they were very itchy and they were red. So I'm concerned if I will be able to wear this yarn in a long run. I'm gonna definitely test it a couple of times before I decide to go a full-on day out of the house, because I will regret that if my feet get itchy and painful. I do have sensitive skin, and yes, I have learned that even skin on my feet is sensitive. Compared to Drops Fable, this is so much softer and less prickling. I did say that Drops Fable is very itchy and that I don't like wearing it, but since then I have worn it a couple of times during whole day in my shoes out and about, where I wasn't conscious that I was wearing them and I don't feel them. So only in situations where I'm sitting here and lounging and where I'm conscious of wearing socks, I can feel them. But if I'm out and about living my life, not thinking about what's on my feet, I didn't have issues with Drops Fable, even though they are very prickly compared to this. So I definitely need to test both of the yarns and decide which one I do love and prefer. I do have one new favorite, which I'm gonna talk about next week because it is work in progress. I went with a bit taller leg just because socks like this I like to wear over my tights in my white sports shoes. So I just went for that look with these ones, and I think if I'm not allergic to this yarn, because I think there is alpaca and wool in this mix, I'm looking forward to wearing them. I need just some winter cooler days to wear these because I really love the look of them. I just hope I'm not allergic to this yarn and that my feet won't regret this. But I do recommend this pattern. It is really beautiful. The end result is really worth the time it took to knit all of these cables on tiny needles. Alright, so before I get into my sweaters, I'm just gonna insert pictures from all the beanies that I have done and I'm gonna talk about them. So I did 2 chunky beanies. Chunky beanies I'm always making in a Spotlight Marble 8-ply. It is just acrylic yarn that I'm destashing, and I'm doing this for charity, and I did 2 of those chunky beanies. The pattern is by Passionate Kelsey. It is done on 8mm needles. It usually takes me around 3 hours to finish one. Then I did 5 ribbed beanies. I'm usually using Planter Tree pattern. It is a free pattern pattern on Ravelry. It is very mindless project. I normally do these beanies between 4 or 6 mil needles depending on the yarn that I'm using. I have all the beanies in my project on my Ravelry, so feel free to check those. Ribbed beanies are mindless project for me and I do love making them. I'm either making them for charity or for my markets. In case they don't sell this year on markets, they will all go in charity next year. So I made 5 of them and they were really nice. Mindless project. I don't know, I had a phase when I think that was when I was working on these socks, because these socks did feel like a slog. So after finishing these socks, I decided that I want to go back to ribbed beanies just because I need something small and mindless, and I was tired with these socks. And then I had a pattern test for Drifting in the Yarn. It was her first pattern release and I applied just because I loved beanies. I loved ribbed beanies. This beanie is called Perfect Match Hat. It is a paid pattern. It's gonna be linked down below. Feel free to check it out. It is a beautiful ribbed beanie with some short rows so that all the ribbing is matching, and that beanie was on my needles for I think 5 days, and I just used some Lion Brand 2 of Wands Color Theory acrylic yarn that I had in my stash, and I think that beanie is gonna go to charity too. I made it slightly smaller because I didn't want to change the needle. It was a pattern test, so I just wanted to see if I can get it on the same needle as the designer, but I just couldn't. Any yarn that I took, and I even get a thicker yarn to achieve the gauge, I was struggling. I guess I'm a very tight knitter compared to some people, so it was a struggle for me to achieve gauge. So that head is on a smaller edge, so I'm just gonna donate it to this year's charity, because this year we are donating to children's charity, so that beanie is gonna be a perfect match. And it's actually called Perfect Match Hat. Oh well. And then I have another beanie which I just wanted to practice a bit of helico or helix knitting, where you are changing color every row and slipping your last 3 stitches. I did this beanie purely for practicing helico knitting and I love it. It looks okay, nothing special. I haven't put down in my notes the pattern I used. I assume it's a free pattern. I wouldn't pay pattern for this, so I can't tell you the pattern right now, but it's, again, if you are interested, it's in my Ravelry page. And the last beanie I have on my list is my Totoro beanie. This is called Sampo by NJ Saunders. Again, everything is in my Ravelry, but for this beanie, just from pictures, for what I was looking into, had a lot of issues with fit, with gauge, with pattern, with everything, and it is a free pattern, so feel free to check it out. I decided to heavily modify it. I only took the Totoro part and left out the Soot Sprites because I didn't like how tall the beanie is and slouchy, so I just did the bottom ribbing because the pattern actually had something different, a braid or something. I did a ribbing and I did just the Totoro color work portion and just did the crown decreases, and that's it. And that was my first time working color work and I loved it. I enjoyed it. It looks really good. I blocked it. It looks amazing. I can't complain. I enjoy working color work and I'm looking forward to do more color work projects. I just wanted something small to practice color work before I jumped into bigger projects. This was also done in Spotlight's 4-season Marvel 8-ply, so it's not even the perfect yarn for color work, but it worked for me. I've learned color work and I practiced and I'm just fine with it. And it was again just the de-stash from my acrylic stash, which is overflowing still. And now we have 3 projects that were actually my biggest finished objects for these 2 months. One of them was WIP last time we talked. I don't have a lot of space here to show you my sweater, so you will see me wearing this. I will have a B-roll footage. I have finished Ivy sweater by PetiteKnit and I did this in Isaiah soft yarn. This is the recommended yarn by PetiteKnit and I did this on 5mm needles. I did size medium. This was on my needles for 25 days. It used 330 grams of yarn, in total 825 meters. Last time I talked about it, I said that my sleeve was too long. I finished the sleeve, I shortened it. This is fully blocked, this is completely done. I have not worn this yet because it is very hot. There has to be a special cold day for me to wear this. Maybe in some markets in winter this will keep me warm if I ever get to do the markets, because so far I've been canceling all my markets because it's raining. But I love this. I love the fit, I love the look, I love the design in general. I loved knitting this yarn. My only concern is I have learned ever since then that I'm not a huge fan of fluffy yarns because I'm bothered with it. I'm not gonna lie, every time I'm knitting with these yarns I'm just constantly lint rolling myself, constantly cleaning my chair. Yeah, it kind of bothers me, I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy working a lot more with cotton merino, or merino in general. But I did it, I finished it, I have it in my wardrobe now and I like it. It is good that I have it. Would I make anything in this yarn again? I'm not sure. I don't need multiples of these thick projects in my wardrobe, not in Australia. This is one and done and I'm happy to have it for cold weather, but in the future I'm definitely looking into a different type of yarn to have in my collection. I do recommend this yarn. I'm yet to wear it full day on my body. I can't say if I'm gonna react to it, if I'm gonna be itchy or not. After this winter I'm gonna do a video about all my winter knits and which one I wore and how did my skin react. I'm gonna do the same video that I am planning on doing for my summer knits, so stay tuned for that because I'm looking forward to update you how my skin is reacting to this. In case you don't know, I do have a really sensitive skin, so we'll see how this will all go. I'm not gonna talk a lot about this in details because I did mention it in a couple of my previous knitting podcasts, so I did talk about the construction and everything. Feel free to check those videos. I did love how this is constructed. It is very easy knit. I would say this is perfect for a beginner project because there is no ribbing. The finishes are so simple and elegant and I do recommend this for a beginner project. Before I get into my mohair sweater, I'm gonna show you my cotton merino slipover for my husband, just because that mohair is gonna get messy. I'm already itching just looking into it. So this is Novice Slipover Man by PetiteKnit. I won't be able to fit it all in the screen. This is all blocked and finished. You can tell some of the dots are from blocking, but that will go away with time. I had to block it a bit aggressively because I was off gauge. I mean, I'm always off gauge because I'm a tight knitter and I was in between sizes, and even though I choose the bigger size, I was still running small. I should have maybe gone for 2 sizes up, but in the end it worked. I blocked it and it is beautiful. So this is done in knitting for olive cotton merino in color dusty blue whale. It was done on 4mm needles and I did size medium. This was on my needles for 12 days. It used 360 grams or 1690 meters, and I was holding this double. First of all, I loved working with this yarn. It is beautiful yarn to work, but now that I'm touching it and feeling it, I can compare it to Drops cotton merino because I already made my stripe hype sweater, which is frogged now, and I will be remaking that. That will be probably my next cast on, and this is not as soft as Drops cotton merino. I think Drops cotton merino is superwash while this is not superwash, and that's the reason why it is not as soft, but it is still beautiful. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. It is not soft for me, but my husband has no issues with skin sensitivity, so he is good to wear this. This color is definitely in his color palette and he loved the way it looks, and I really loved working with this. It was a quick make, like I said, only 12 days. I mean, there are no sleeves, so that's at least a week less of knitting. I think for me and my husband and for Australian weather in general, even in winter, cotton merino is the way to go for us, because my husband last year, he said that he was overheating in one of his woolen jumpers, so I think cotton merino is gonna be perfect even just for winter. I love how clean and nice looking this yarn is. I love that there is not a lot of fuzziness to it, there is not mess when you are knitting with this yarn. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed working with this yarn so much. The pattern is very easy, straightforward. This is just like the traditional European construction. You start with the back. There's no short rows because you're working flat. You're increasing for the armholes. In the end, you're just picking up stitches, working increases for the neckline and joining front, working increases for the armholes, in the end joining in the round, and it's easy. It is 1 by 1 rib and the neckline is 1 by 1 rib, but it is folded, so essentially you're just knitting double and folding and sewing in the end. So easy, so nice. I enjoyed making this one. I'm actually thinking maybe making one for myself, because she does have a Novice Slipover for women, but I don't think I need that. This is size medium, which is usually the size that I would make for myself, just a bit shorter. I don't need it this tall. So yeah, now that I have man pattern, I might make one for myself. Very easy pattern, very straightforward, and I do recommend this. Definitely. And even the yarn, even though it's not the softest yarn in my hands, I do think that this is very nice yarn. I apologize if I am rushing through all of these projects, but since these were all done a long time ago, I feel like I have forgot how I have made them. That Novice Slipover was actually the last one I have finished, but everything else has been like over a month ago, so I kind of don't remember the construction, the details, and for some of the projects I didn't even go very deep into my Ravelry notes, because if I'm following pattern to a T, I don't usually put a lot of notes unless I'm changing things or I'm off gauge. And last but not least is the messiest one, the one that I really didn't enjoy working with, and it comes down to the yarn. Even though this is the mohair that is the softest on my skin, and out of all the mohairs that I have tried, this is definitely one that my body can handle, at least knitting with it. We'll see how I'm gonna wear this, if I'm gonna react over a long time. But working with this yarn, I have learned that I don't enjoy having this mess around me, having this hair flying around, having this hair just touching my skin. Every time I'm gonna pick this project, I need to allow myself at least an hour of work, because it's not something that I'm just gonna take for 5 minutes and then leave, because it's not worth cleaning myself. I hate the way this feels on me when I'm working with it, and every time I have to lint roll everything, even this chair, because if something flies, it annoys me, and that is just the sensory issue I have. I will wear this because I have it now, but will I ever make a fully mohair garment ever again? No. I don't see myself making mohair garments. I don't think I will ever make a mohair garment just holding mohair with something else, because I really don't enjoy this feeling, this sensation. As nice and soft this is, it is so annoying. I cannot see myself wearing this out and about, and for example going into a restaurant to have a lunch with my family and stressing that all of this is flying into our food, plates, mouth and everywhere. I don't know, this is, am I the only one, or do you guys feel the same, that this yarn is annoying to run errands, have a lunch, grab a coffee? Because I feel like whatever I'm gonna eat, it's gonna be covered in mohair, and it's disgusting. I'm not gonna lie. Now that I have it in my wardrobe, I'm gonna wear it, but I'm gonna have to choose occasions when I'm gonna do that. But do I see myself grabbing for this garment like casually, without stress? On an easy day where I just want to go out and about without stress, would I grab this garment? Probably not. This is my second time working with mohair. The first garment I have finished one was knitting for Olive, and I'm yet to wear that one. First of all, it's too big on me. Second of all, I didn't have weather to wear it, so this is gonna be the first autumn winter season for me to wear anything like that. And I'm actually thinking of frogging it because I don't like the way the garment fits me, and I'm not looking forward to knit with mohair again. I'm gonna be honest. Now let's reveal what this is. First of all, the yarn. The yarn is ECR Soft Silk Mohair and the colorway is 57. It is really beautiful green color. It looks really nice. It is soft, but I can tell you just by holding it and it's touching me, I am like, ooh, this is too much. This is too much. So what I have knit Cumulus Blouse O-Neck by PetiteKnit. I have already knit a Cumulus Tee O-Neck this summer and I enjoy the look of that tee, the fit, the everything about that tee. So I thought I'm gonna enjoy the blouse. I do love the way the blouse looks, but I just don't like the yarn. That's my biggest issue. And here is the blouse. It is all done with holding mohair double-stranded, and it is done with I-cord edges on the neckline, cuffs and bottom hem. It is done on 4.5 mil needles. I did it in a size medium and this took 23 days to finish. It only weighs 164 grams and it used 1,390 meters. That's double-stranded. Overall, I love the look of this garment. I love that it's blouse. I love the fit because I like the I-cord edge. It's very simple. It's very professional looking, like it's lightweight. It's like a perfect transitional garment. I could definitely wear this in Australian winter because it's gonna give me some airflow with, because it is a bit of bigger gauge. You can see a bit through it. Construction wise, let me double check the construction because I honestly don't remember. I think this was a raglan. You're essentially working raglan increases. I finished with this a month ago. That's why I don't like to have so much space between podcasts because I forget things. I'm already on 3 different projects and I forgot what I did a month ago. All I remember that knitting wise, this wasn't a problem. It is very simple construction. Essentially, it is just the raglan construction. You're just going up and picking stitches for the I-cord edge, which I really enjoy working I-cord edge, and it gives a really beautiful finish. It's very simple, elegant, effortless and chic. I couldn't see this blouse with any ribbing because it would be just too much. This is really nice. I love the way this looks. Same as my Cumulus Tee O-Neck that I did in silk. I'm looking forward to report back how often will I pick up this garment and wear it, whether I'm gonna wear it this year. And one thing I have learned is definitely that I'm no longer buying mohair until this season is over and I have worn my garments and tested if I can even wear this long term. I do have a lot of different yarns in my stash that I still need to work through, and now I'm regretting of some of my purchases because I bought, for example, Drops brushed alpaca thinking I'm gonna make cardigan, which feels similar to this, and now I'm thinking, do I really want cardigan in that yarn, and what am I gonna do with that yarn if I don't make cardigan, if I don't like wearing things like that. But I guess that's the part of learning process, learning yarns that suit me, yarns that I actually enjoy working with. We will see in the long run where will I land with the yarns that I love, yarns that suit me, that suit the weather and the country that I'm living in. So it's a learning process. It's been a year since I have started knitting, not since I have learned knitting, since I have started knitting garments for myself, and it's been fun discovering all of these things. So yeah, we'll see what the second year of knitting will bring and what I have learned from this past year, and I'm looking forward to report back how my skin reacts to all of this. Stay tuned for my future videos because I do have a lot of projects in mind. I do have a lot of yarn in stash and I'm looking forward to work through all of that and share my experience both with patterns and yarn and share about the knitting because I really don't have anyone to talk about knitting. So yeah, that would be it. Those are all my finished objects for the past 2 months. I feel like it is a lot. I have 4 projects on my needle, actually 3 projects on my needle at the moment and 4 in plans on casting on soon. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'm gonna try to film these videos at least every 2 weeks because this was overwhelming just gathering all the data just to sit down and film this video. So I need to be more on top of all of that. Thank you so much for watching and until next time, happy knitting!